Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Smith of Pack Power 247, here to discuss some NC State men's basketball. We're running a little bit later today. The ride last night to and from Clemson, while worth it, wore me out a little bit. So I was running a little bit behind this morning, trying to get some content done, but trying to get everything taken care of, also with family stuff like that. So that certainly helps too, in trying to get all of this stuff together. But NC State, an 80-76 win over Clemson. Just say, look, like you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket and say like this is what gets you, your NCAA resume or anything along those lines. You still have to stack a few more wins, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this one, 80-76 on the road, ranks. If you like getting into the analytics, if you want to go by the wins above bubble or WOB. This was a plus 0.81 in that situation or where you want to go to. And as Nick pointed out, yes, I had my score prediction yesterday was almost spot on. I said 82 to 70. I think I said 82 to 77, I believe was the final that I had. Final prediction yesterday. Now that was in regulation, so I get a little bit of help from overtime if Quadir Copeland makes a shot at the end, or Darrion Williams hits something at the very end. Yeah, 82 to 78, 82 to 77. I had it somewhere in there. But like I said, overtime certainly helped. I'm not going to give myself a huge pat on the back for that. I had it in regulation. I didn't think this game was going to overtime. But what I will say is if you want to going back to what I was saying, you want to go by wins above the bubble or whatever metric you want to go by. This is a plus 0.81, which was one of the best road game wins of any team in the entire country. That's how good this Clemson team is and how difficult they are to beat on the road. Now, that one might change a little bit. We'll see. But as of right now, it's actually above a couple others that rank inside the top 15, which happen to be Kansas beating NC State on the road. Also happened to be Virginia beating NC State on the road. So a couple tough home losses, but again, this team is that good that teams beating NC State on the road rank up there, clear, close to what it is for NC State to win this road game yesterday. So again, that tells you how quality of a team people outside of the triangle think this team is. Obviously, we see their flaws. We see the things that this team has to work on. But I wanted to break down a couple things here. I made the title, as Gary said. He said, you definitely got me with the title. Wanted to pull you in. Yeah, I mean, look, it's something that I think Will Wade has been saying all year, especially, midway through the non-conference play where there was questions that arose about Darrion Williams, where there was questions that arose about, what was NC State going to do at the point guard position? Was Q going to be the guy moving forward? That's obviously been answered. Trey Holloman playing some point guard, but mostly playing off the ball in this system for NC State. But the reason why I made the title, maybe Will Wade was right all along, is the fact that, he said over and over again, like the two guys that need to have the highest usage rate. And he said this, I want to say back to like the VCU game, just talking about, the fact that, and that was when the team was 4-0, 5-0 at the time, in really good standing. He said, if I can get, Darrion Williams and Quadir Copeland running parallel to each other, in terms of usage rate, in terms of, where we think the ball, where the ball should go, who should be the decision makers, whether it's shooting the basketball or, distributing it, getting the ball in their hands, letting them be the decision makers, that should win us games. As of right now, despite his, shooting woes and the issues that he's had at times scoring the basketball, right now, Darrion Williams for NC State, when he has a usage rate above 24%, NC State is 10-1 right now. So all the other losses that you've had outside of that, as of right now, I think the usage rate, if it's below that, I believe he ranks somewhere. I think NC State, what is the number there? I guess it would be 2-5 right now, or 3-5. Outside of that, he's obviously missed a game as well earlier in the season, so that kind of factors into it. But when he has a usage rate above 24%, and last night his usage rate was at 28%, and then the game before Georgia Tech just a hair below 24%. Now I would probably give him, if NC State was able to make a shot down the stretch against Georgia Tech, you probably win that game. But that was a game that objectively, he was not great in. And if he had hit above 24%, you'd had to kind of bite the bullet there. Like, he just wasn't very good in that game. The only game that they've lost where his usage rate has been above 24% this season was the game against Kansas. And again, that one kind of comes down to if Quadir Copeland makes a free or a layup at the very end, or Darrion Williams hits one of those 2 3-pointers that they shot at the very end of the game. Again, don't know that you necessarily needed a 3 there. You could have gotten one and then tried to force another one up late. But they went for the win in that one and ultimately didn't get it. But that's the only game where his usage rate has been above 24% and NC State has lost the game. So when you put the ball in the hands of Darrion Williams and Quadir Copeland, you just kind of have to live with it at this point. Like, those are your 2 better players, better decision makers for NC State this season. And as much as, again, we've kind of harped on it, the fact that Darrion Williams has struggled, and look, it doesn't always pass the eye test. We're watching it and going, all right, man, you're 3 of 12 from, shooting right now. Why do they keep putting the ball in his hands? Well, eventually he starts making the right plays. And, there was a lot of missed shots down the stretch, but it wasn't a lack of, it wasn't bad shots for NC State. A lot of the times it was just, Clemson's defense putting the clamps on NC State late and forcing them into, decision making that they didn't always, it didn't always pan out at the very end. But you look at the overtime period, going back to that, I talked about it a little bit on the podcast last night. Quadir Copeland with the first layup, Darrion Williams on a 3-pointer that Quadir Copeland basically drives, he's an ISO situation. He drives, realizes he's getting double teamed, sees the guy kind of cheating off of Darrion Williams and goes, here you go. You hit a 3 from outside. He trusts Darrion Williams. Williams takes it, makes it. NC State goes up by 2. Very next play, get the ball in the hands of Darrion Williams. Darrion Williams drives inside, realizes he gets past his first defender, realizes that the center, the guy down low in the post that's supposed to be guarding guarding Lubin, comes out on him, and he realizes, okay, now I've got a wide open Lubin. Instead of chucking up a shot over a tree, a guy that's taller than him, he dishes it inside, gets an easy bucket to Lubin, who then dunks it in. NC State at that point takes a 4-point lead. Again, obviously Clemson's able to get back in it a little bit, hits a couple free throws to make it a 2-point game. But Lubin down the stretch, Matt Abel down the stretch, both of them hitting those free throws. But that decision making, putting the ball in the hands of your 2 best players, your 2 best decision makers, has really panned out for NC State. And as David Johnson points out here, he says, great free throw shooting last night, beat Pitt Saturday, go Pack. Yeah, look, and obviously all this has to translate. And I'm trying to point out, like, the ways that NC State is winning as of right now, or the ways that they're doing these things. Like, a lot of times it's because of the fact that everything that Will Wade has said has been true. Like, this guy does affect winning. I know, obviously, you watch the game, like I said last night. At one point, you had Lubin was 6 of 6, I believe, to start the game. And then you saw Darrion Williams, who wasn't making a ton of shots, start getting the ball inside to Lubin. Quadir Copeland start getting the ball inside to Lubin. Like, these guys are going to make smart decisions once they get the ball in their hands. Looking at the stats last night, I want to make sure I get it correct. Yeah. Darrion Williams, 28% usage rate last night. Quadir Copeland at 23%. That's about where you want those guys. The fact that Quadir Copeland took 10 shots overall, but multiple were in the overtime period. So, that's about where you want him to be as well. Darrion Williams, you want to be the guy shooting the most for you. Now, again, you'd like for him to be the guy shooting from outside and making a few more of those. That would be great. But at the same time, Lubin, man, like, a great game from him last night. And again, decision-making on both of their parts, getting the ball inside to him, realizing he had the hot hand, letting him kind of go. He missed a couple right after. I think it was like he started off 6 of 6. I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah, like started off 6 of 6 and then missed, the next 2, missed a layup, got a couple free throws, and then missed a layup late with 3 minutes left to go that could have potentially put NC State over the top. That would have put them at 69 points at the time, or put them at 67 points at the time, and then eventually got to 69. But the thing is, like, again, you're going off of what you're seeing in the game, and I think you got 2 guys there that know, all right, if I draw a double team, I'm immediately getting handing it off. If a set play is run for me and I end up running into a double team, I know to kick it out to somebody else. So like they're being smart with the basketball. Numbers wise, last night those two combined for 33 points, 9 assists, and 1 turnover in the game. 79 minutes combined for the two of them. So look, would you like to see more rebounding from Darrion Williams at time? Sure. But 6 defensive rebounds for him last night for one of the better defensive rebounding teams in the ACC. The only team that's better, one of the only teams that's better defensive rebounding wise than NC State is Clemson, who ended up getting 29 defensive rebounds last night. So you kind of take them where you can get them. But NC State also, making 25 of their 57 shots, 8 of 23 from 3-point range. You'll live with that every single night. Now, you obviously go through a long stretch where they didn't make a bucket, but 16 of 18 from the free throw line is what ultimately ended up pushing the game to overtime, along with really good defensive play for NC State in this one, forcing 13 turnovers on a team that only averages 9.6 turnovers per game. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out there, but like those types of things win you games against a really good Clemson team that's extremely good defensively. You create transition buckets, like I pointed out yesterday. That was one of the things that NC State had to do. If you can't find a size mismatch down low, then you try to get some transition points. They were actually able to get several shots inside to Lubin and also get 19 points off of turnovers in transition. So all of those things worked in NC State's favor, and you still had to go to overtime to be able to win this game. So that tells you just how tight the margins can be in these great games in the ACC. And again, how doing all the little things for NC State worked out, even when some things like rebounding didn't go their favor. This is only the second win of the entire season for NC State where they've been out rebounded. So, or third win all season where they've been out rebounded. So like those things just don't happen very often. So you're going to have to find ways to win in other margins and win handily. And that's exactly what they did last night. The other thing I wanted to point out too, I mentioned how big of a win this is overall in terms of, wins above bubble, WOB, whatever you want to call it. But like the other, games to kind of compare that to for NC State right now, the only other, they've played again at this point, 5 other quad 5 or quad 1 games, and, lost to Seton Hall, lost to Texas, lost to Auburn, lost to Kansas, lost to Virginia, 2 of those being at home. And, those will probably hold up given how good Kansas and Virginia have looked recently. But at the same time, you're still kind of hoping for some of those quad 2 games like, neutral court against Boise State to eventually move back up if Boise State's able to kind of, win and have some success. And at the same time, you need for like the Florida State game, which helped significantly last night to stay a quad 2. So right now, NC State technically between quad 1 and quad 2 happens to be 6-5 overall. So 6-5 overall. Trying to do the math here. Math is not my strong subject, but again, all those things certainly help NC State once you're looking at where they want to try to get to. And yeah, look, as Nick pointed out, like Val appreciation post, Lubin, he's been everything that NC State wanted and more. And, I will point this out too. Like there's been, some light blue fans that have pointed out the fact that NC State has played in games where they've played him 28 plus minutes. Things haven't necessarily gone well in NC State's favor. The thing that I will point out to that, first of all, they're not 0-6. They're 3-5, and now they happen to be 4-5 in those games. Granted, still not a great overall look, but like I want to go back and look at some of these. Let me just make sure. Hold on. I actually forgot to do this before we jumped on, so I want to make sure that I get it straight here because of the fact that like if you're going by a per game basis and you want to go by the minutes, like, if NC State's not blowing out FSU 113-69, maybe he plays more than 26 minutes. He didn't have to down the stretch. If NC State's not winning handily against BC, maybe he plays more than 24 minutes. Again, neither one of those are great teams, but like if you want to kind of skew the stats in a way that says, oh, they're 0-6 in games where they played him 28 plus minutes, first of all, objectively false. But also right now, if they had played him more in those games, if they had played him more in the Texas Southern game, they had played him more against Liberty, all those games being, massive blowouts for NC State. And Liberty, a quality game at that point. And if they had played him more against UNCG or UAB or NC Central, like right now, NC State would probably be somewhere between like 9-5 and 10-5 with him playing 28 plus minutes. Again, maybe that's not a great record overall, but like all of those things could have factored in here to him having NC State having a much better record with him playing 28 plus minutes. You just haven't had to. And when he's your best big man and the most reliable guy, you want to carve out some time for him to have some rest in some of these games and give guys like Moussa Sanye some more time. Maybe give guys like Scotty Abube, who didn't play again last night, some more time as well to kind of figure out his role too. And so you've got some other guys that, hey, when you get in these blowout games, like you've got to put them out there and try to figure out what you truly got there, not only from a defensive standpoint, but from an offensive standpoint too. And, as Nick pointed out, he said outside of DJ Burns, he might be one of the most efficient state players in a while. And actually, he's kind of right there with DJ Burns in terms of, shooting percentage, in terms of overall effectiveness. Right now, after last night, shooting right now 67.1%. So for all you 67 fans out there, just a skosh over that. But that's right now 5th in the country in field goal percentage. So look, the defensive wise, he's not always the best defender. Like that's just, you're going to have some limitations there. But Will Wade has consistently said he's going to skew on the side of offensive players and putting the players out there that get you the most points as opposed to the defensive side of the basketball. And really, not saying he doesn't value that, but if he's got a guy that's shooting well and he's got a guy that's defending well, but not shooting well, he's going to go with the guy that's shooting well more than the other one. So that to me is kind of what leads me to the last point here too. The fact that right now NC State, I want to kind of point this out really quickly because Evan Maya does a great job every single year, breaking down the top. I mean, like it goes all the way to like, let's see, what is page 64 here? It goes all the way to 3,196 players and breaking down, each and every single one of them and putting every single player up there on the board. Right now, NC State, according to his analytics, has 3 players inside of the top 100 so far this season. Quadir Copeland's currently sitting at number 45 with a 7.5 overall ranking, and that's because of the fact that he has a 4.87 offensive, 2.63 defensive rating. That puts him in a really good position. Like the top overall guy right now, Cam Boozer for Duke, currently at a 13.17. So nobody's really coming close to that except for Yaxel Lindenberg that plays for Michigan. He's at a 12.71. So again, all these numbers probably don't mean a ton, but I'm just telling you, like, where right now you have a top 50 overall player. Sorry if I'm breaking up a little bit here. I apologize. But I'm trying to say, like, you have a top 50 overall player in Quadir Copeland. You also have a top 75 player in Paul McNeil, who currently ranks at 67th in the country. And then Darrion Williams has slowly crept back up and is now the number 85 overall player. The last time that NC State had 2 players on the same roster inside of the top 200, not even the top 150, not even the top 100, was the 2022-2023 season where you had Terquavion Smith at number 99 overall, and then you had Jarkel Joyner at number 151. So those 2 guys, basically lifted that team. I know DJ Burns was good that year as well, but those 2 guys basically propelled that team to getting to the NCAA tournament. Obviously, Casey Morsell was very good on that team too. Casey Morsell, an elite defender on that team. Also a guy that shot really well, shot over 40% from 3. But by these metrics, by the like a lot of these metrics that Will Wade's looking at, and a lot of the metrics that people across the country are looking at, those 3 players being inside the top 100, that's the first time that it's happened in several years. I have to go back and try to find if there's another year where NC State's had 3 guys inside of the top 100, much less or 3 the top 200, much less 3 guys in the top 100. So, and obviously those numbers can change, but I'm just trying to point out right now, like the talent level on this team is very, very good, and they have a chance to make a run. The last 12 games right now in ACC play for NC State, all quad 1 or quad 2 opportunities. Pittsburgh will be a quad 2. Syracuse will be a quad 2. Those are both very winnable games for NC State. One of those being at home. Again, it hasn't been great for NC State at home, but you have a great chance there. And then you go on the road to Wake Forest, which is actually a quad 1 game. You go on the road to SMU, which is a quad 1 game. Wake Forest might switch to quad 2 on the road, given what happened against SMU. But quad 2, quad 1, quad 2, quad 1, like every single one of these last few games is all quad 2 or quad 1 opportunities. So for NC State, it's about putting the hands in the most talented players that you have, giving them the opportunities to go win you games, and then other guys stepping up around them. And you've seen that, the last few games, Paul McNeil, I've said consistently he's been one of NC State's best players, but, a guy like Lubin, 22 points last night. The other guys, as far as like Matt Abel coming off the bench last night, I think Matt Abel could continue to be, again, a great player for NC State. I think he needs to get more opportunities. I said on the podcast last night, I think he needs to get more opportunities. We'll see. And maybe he's the answer there at the starting lineup. Again, I'm the title of this is maybe Will Wade was right all along, and Trey Holloman, snaps back into it and becomes the player that we saw earlier in the season where he can shoot the three and he becomes, a better offensive player and somebody that does give you that spark in the starting lineup. But to me, Matt Abel has been a great player. Terrence Arsenault has been a great player. So you've got the pieces around these guys. Go let these guys be elite and let the other players kind of lift the floor of what this team can become, because those guys are ceiling raisers for you. You need to figure out where your floor is and where the other guys kind of figure out, factor into all of this and become better players too. And I think Lubin is another guy that is a major floor raiser for NC State. If he's able to go out there and get you somewhere between 10 to 15 a night and get you 8 to 10 rebounds a night, which, the rebounds have shifted a little bit, but if he's able to do that along with all these other guys, I think you have a chance to be a great, great team. Last thing I want to point out here too, Nick said, any injury news on Breed or just a coaching decision last night? Yes, Will Wade actually did say Breed was fully healthy. He just felt that he wanted to get more offense in the lineup and put Trey Holloman in there, give him a little bit more of a spark at the beginning of the game, a guy that had started earlier in the year, but obviously injury recently, and then Allen Breed playing consistent basketball. He wanted to put Allen Breed in there. And he said that he had planned on playing him a little bit last night, but the reason why he didn't was because of the good minutes that he got from Matt Abel off the bench at the guard position. Felt like, better length, more energy off the bench, and a guy that, shoots the ball really well. Ended up 2 of 3 in this game. Only took 1 3-pointer, but again, all those different guys kind of factored into this. And I think right now, if you're able to get a guy like Matt Abel to consistently produce and become that guy for you, like you saw on the last road swing, I think that lifts again what this team can potentially become. So, all right, I said all that. Barely drink any of my coffee, which I absolutely need today, but we will have much more content over on Pack Power 247, talking about this game leading up to Pittsburgh on Saturday. Thank you again to everybody for listening. We will talk to you guys again soon.